Why are community midwives important? I think that we need an alternative. I think people need a choice. Like we both said, when we learned that we were pregnant, we were just like hospital. But it shouldn't have to be like that. There should be informed choices that people can make so that you can decide what's best for you. Some people really love the uniformity of the hospital and the sureness of it,
The safety,
the
yeah.
safety of it. But then
Or the
some
perceived safety.
yeah.
Yeah.
But some people love just the idea like one day I will give birth outside, and that's I want the freedom to be able to decide if I get to drink water, if I get to eat food, or what music and how and where. And I think that's important for women, especially when you're experiencing something as complicated as pregnancy and birth, because you feel not a lot of it isn't under your control, and so you want something to be able to hold on to and to decide on. You don't know what you're having or when you're having it, and if it's going to be healthy or whatever, but you know how you want to bring a baby into the world, so you should be able to choose.
I was always a pregnancy that had no complications, so there was really no reason to go to the hospital. And when I did go with my one child, everything from all of the strangers and the nurse practitioners to everything was just very sterile. And you had no autonomy over your body. They put things on you and put you on IVs and push drugs, and all of the things that you said initially you didn't want ended up happening because you were at a moment of vulnerability. So initially, I decided to have a home birth because I just wanted to have a little more autonomy and have the sisterhood of having a midwife.
My midwife became my best friend, right? And it's like having people around me who are experts about the body, which is kept such a mystery from communities, from Americans. We are taught to have someone else take care of us, and for other people to be the experts as opposed to ourselves. Well, having midwives in the community make it so that those experts who want to empower us are there as midwives in managing a life experience that is natural, that can take place whether we have high six-figure paid doctors on the scene or not. It's a natural experience.
Community midwives have been responsible for generations of people, and we chose a community midwife because they, to me, are the masters. They are the experts when it comes to birth. And we wanted to be a part of that continuum and a part of that legacy and a part of that process. The fears I had around choosing an OB as opposed to a midwife were fear of not really being heard in a clinical setting, fear of not being empowered to make the choices that I felt like I needed to make for me and for my family at the time, and not really having the flexibility or really the opportunity to explore more natural methods and means of birthing. I had never heard of that. Certainly had never experienced it just in my own interactions, in clinical settings. So I definitely was fearful of being disempowered in that process, and already feeling like walking into the process, I didn't have much power with regard to that because they presented as the experts. They presented, as people who knew it all. And it was really important to me that I feel empowered in my own process with regard to birth.
I was able to be a part of what was going on at the time. Okay, things were explained. It wasn't just a do this, it wasn't a regimentation, but I was able to, and I was respected. My choice was respected. That was key. I think that was probably the first time I actually really felt in charge of something, And again, it was a home birth. It was a private experience. And I think that in terms of my well-being, I think that I healed much more better. I was able to sleep when I wanted to, with the baby being right here beside me, as opposed to sleeping in an uncomfortable bed, having to get up, get the baby, lay back down. I was able to wear my own clothing so I could nurse, in whatever I chose to put on. The food was accessible, and I had a choice in terms of what I wanted to eat or what I didn't want to eat when I wanted to sleep. I didn't have anybody waking me up at night, to take my blood pressure or my temperature or whatever. So it's much more relaxing. And I think from there, I healed probably quicker.
They were like, leave it in the hands of the doctors. And then, so they're spoon feeding us information a little bit at a time. But then once we had our first visit with the midwife, it kind of hammered that in. Like, yeah, this is a good relationship. She was very open with us. She wanted to know what we wanted out of the birth, and made it very much about us, where hospitals and doctors never really did that for us.
At my birth, I had a slew of community midwives. I had my Manasra, I had my mom. I had a midwife come down from up north, Aviva, and then I had doulas. And I just knew that between the support and being able to usher my baby in, that they would be able to help me and get the job done. My mom has surrounded me with these community midwives, and that gave me the trust, and I was sure that this was the route for me.
I feel like it's important to know that you have someone that looks like you and understands you and the different things that we might go through or the different traumas, because I feel like sometimes if you're not necessarily from the community and you don't know that person or, the family, then they don't care as much, or, they just kind of like make it a 10-minute appointment and, okay, your head hurts, take Tylenol. It's not where they actually make sure that you're, okay, let me check your pressure, or let me, it's not the time taken to really take every precaution to make sure that you and your baby is safe.
I just think the society we live in, we feel really like detached, and we really are moving back towards spirit and community. And I feel like midwifery is a huge part of that, like bringing in new life, and keeping our communities connected, keeping our sisters connected. Because, sometimes we can be very disconnected just because of the environment we're living in, what we're eating,
busyness,
how we treat each other, you know what I mean? And I feel like they're a perfect, guide and bridge between the sisters in the community and us all making sure that we...
needed.
Yeah.
When do you need sisters more than when you're having a baby?
They give you a sense of motherhood. They help bring that out of you that you don't know really is there, your strength. To me, they have just empowered me. They're so empowering, which feeds off into your pregnancy, feeds off into your kids and what you're doing in your life, making you more self-aware. Being able to be with now 3 different midwives and the same doula has just made me a better woman. I already feel like I was a pretty self-sufficient person who gets my stuff done and all these things. And I feel like my mother, who I have a great relationship with, has given me all the tools there is. But to learn that there's so many more tools and that they can bring so many more, they can see things in you that you can't necessarily see in yourself or help you bring it out, it's just been awesome. I don't know how women do it without the village. They have given me a village that I feel like I could have 15 kids if I wanted them because of the resources that they give you and bring you and the insights into life and living and being.
All community midwives have been really nurturing to me, and that was so important. Doctors sometimes can be a little cold or just, they're not as, welcoming to the whole experience. They just kind of want to get you in and out. And that was really important for me to have that person who would be there to catch my baby, just, knowing that they weren't just in the room for a paycheck or anything, that they were actually a part of this whole experience, my first experience, having a baby.
For my midwife, she became like a pseudo mom to me, for me, especially because my mom does not live here. She just was everything for me. It was someone I could lean on, call, just give me lots of love and encouragement. And, she was empowering, just encouraging me to know that I could do this, I could own this journey and it can be however I want it to be. That was just important to me, just building a trust with somebody. And for me, she will forever be like mom, she'll be grandma to my kids, I think that everybody should be able to have that experience. I think everybody should have the choice to, be able to decide how they bring their kids in this world. And I think there's no better way than at home.
It was never even a question there was never a thought about having a hospital birth. That was my basic lifestyle approach that I was living at that time and still do. It was the natural way. And everything I was doing was basically from that perspective. So that's why I never even thought about having a hospital birth. And the thought of it ignited me to go on and have the first baby. Because the midwife said, if you don't hurry up, have the baby, we're going to take you to Grady. And I said, oh, okay, just give me about 3 more minutes. Next thing I know, I had pushed the baby out. Yeah, so it never was an option. It never thought to have a baby at the hospital.
At first, I just wanted a water birth. I knew I wanted a natural water birth. But what got me on the home birth was I went to the doctor I was seeing, and I was like, do y'all have water birth facilities? And she was like, oh, trust me, when you're ready to have a baby, you won't care how you have it. And I was like, no. She's like, you won't be in the mindset. I'm like, no, I definitely will be. So that was the last time, with my daughter, that was the last time I went to that doctor, and it was just like, okay, we're going to find a way to have a birth somewhere, another way. And she said, oh, I know a midwife. And I was like, I didn't even really know about midwifery fully.
Yeah, it wasn't something we had explored before, but once
it was just,
it's like things just went in that direction when she expressed that was what she wanted from the birth.
And then after the first one, it was a no-brainer that every time we have a baby, that's just going to be the route we're going to take. And I always encourage, moms were like, you should have a home. That's always an option, to have a home birth, Like my sister was twins, and I was like, you should have a home birth, But, everyone's different. I always say, whatever you feel comfortable with at the end of the day.
I birthed without a midwife once, and I think that was a great experience for me because I had experience. But even then, I had my midwife on call. She was available to me if there was an emergency. And things can happen, and having trained individuals who are prepared with oxygen tanks, who know how to remove the cord from the neck, who know how to turn the baby if needed, who know how to address the small things that could turn to big things if they're not handled professionally. I think it's essential, although I feel confident that in the best case scenario, a woman can birth with her partner and not need all that. It's not always the best case scenario. So we need professional trained women who are willing to go into the homes and who have all the equipment necessary to protect the mother and the baby.
Before I became pregnant, I had a miscarriage. So I was able to talk to the midwife, and they explained different things about my body processes that I didn't even know. That even though at that time they were teaching sex ed in classes and we had parents, there were different things that I didn't even know that my body did that the midwife told me about things to expect, about how to eat, things to make me healthier, to prepare for a baby.
I just felt, I know I needed the support. Just, you can't do everything. And so I do feel like women, I wouldn't recommend just having a baby by yourself, especially in the society that we live in, where there's so many parameters. It's just better to have some help. And so that's why I would always want to have a midwife, just to have that experience. And the help, they really help tremendously. It's a lot to having a baby. It is a very natural, simple act, but, we live in a society where, it's not as natural as it used to be. So you're going to need support.
When I did my prenatal with the hospital, it was very, just kind of like stereotype. Same question, same everything for everybody. Whereas when I had the children that I had at home, the whole experience was different. I mean, we were home, the whole family was involved. The connection with the midwife was more than any connection that you could have with a doctor who just comes in at the end of everything. She's just more connected to you, to what you're going through the 9 months and through the birth than a doctor would be in a hospital.
That's also part of the thing about home births. It's like this thing has been around for centuries, for years, for thousands of years.
That's how we've done it.
That's how we've done it for so long, right? And then it's like now all of a sudden technology and money has changed how people do this thing that we've done this one way for so long. And it's like, and so people just kind of go along with that system, and they're not even looking outside of the box of like, well, wait a minute, like this other way is just as fine.
It's always this fear conversation. Like it's always like once one OB appointment, and they were like, "Oh, we have to just watch out for this," and I was like, and she would leave sometimes, and you have your foundation, you're solid, and then you go in there, and Vanya is an immensely strong woman with a great foundation, but they start doing that thing, and then you walk out and you start, well, maybe we should. It's not based in anything other than some empirical data that they have that they've supported from other situations, and then you have the insurance on your neck trying to tell you when you should have your baby. So for me, it didn't make us any stronger. It didn't make us any more confident about having children. It didn't make us any more confident about the process and feeling more safe. It actually did the opposite.
Having my last two sons at home in an unchaos environment under low lights, just in a warm, just where we were, you can't replace that. To know that I brought my first three children in the world to all these people handling and moving around and all these bright lights and all this chaotic stuff. The world's chaotic enough. So I am just thankful that I had midwives to show me that we could do this in our own controlled environment that's not chaotic, to a world that they're already gonna be in. It was just so calming. It was just to be able to surrender and just be there and just be in tune with how you're feeling and to sit still. When all the hospital births, they leave out, get up, walk around. They want you moving and doing all these things so that you can get discharged home. My midwives are like, why are you moving anything for these first weeks? I'm like, you want me to sit upstairs and not go down my stairs for 2 weeks? For 6 weeks? Yeah, right. How's that gonna happen? But it can happen if you have the right people around you telling you and encouraging you and making them step up for you.
What I loved most about my experience with my community midwife was I actually got to witness a relationship between a midwife and the hospital. We ended up having to go to the hospital, Plan B, and just watching my OB and my midwife work hand in hand, making informed and shared decisions with me and my family. It was an experience that I wasn't expecting, but I was just so grateful to witness, because you don't hear about stories where you come in with a doula, you come in with a midwife, and the OB is almost stepping back a little bit and letting the folks that you have been working with your whole pregnancy also steer this ship and not kind of dominating the situation or the birth. And that's what happened. And just every person in the room had space and a voice upon me allowing them. But everyone was able to be present and be heard. And there was not a one person, except for myself, of course, leading this experience.
You're only as limited as you believe you are. This is your body. Your body can do whatever you tell it to do. So if you believe you can't do it, then you've lost before you started. So you have to believe this is doable. So that's the narrative that we have to change in our communities. We have watched all these birth stories and people are screaming, hollering, and people are saying, you had no medicine? That's crazy. But it has to be the norm. And people have to understand that that's doable. Why is it crazy to have no medicine? I think it's crazy to have medicine. I think it's crazy to subject your newborn baby to drugs in their first taste of life. But we have to change the narrative. We have to change the tone of how we speak to each other. We have to change the tone of what's normal, what we believe is normal. So it's easy for me because I was born at home, so I can know that, okay, my mother did it with no drugs. That means I can do it. But if you've never had anybody in your life breastfeed, have a home birth, have no drugs, even in the hospital, then the very idea is so foreign that you already believe that you can't do it. So we have to change that. Just by telling our stories, people understand now that if she can do it, why can't I? So that's what we want to change.